guaranteed. That means if you're not satisfied with Spa Clean, you'll get a full refund plus 15%. Best of all, from now till the end of the month, you can get a 25% discount on your next cleaning. Just mention offer code radio. Find out more at BoiseHotTubCleaning.com. That's BoiseHotTubCleaning.com.
Session Smackdown with Mike Turner, sponsored by Affinity Mortgage and IdahoLuxuryForeclosures.com on News Talk 670 KBOI.
Okay, we're back. This is Mike Turner, and this show is the Recession Smackdown, where we talk about not how just to survive this economy, but how to get ahead. And I got a real interesting guest in today, Lee Eyerman, and we were just discussing. Lee's, my go-to person to find out what the heck's going on out there. He's really tapped into this economy, not only locally, but also nationally in the world, and real interesting to kind of get his insights and his interpretations of what's going out there. He was just saying how Europe is taking a bath. A lot of the countries over there are really high in debt. Iceland, as we already heard about it, but now Greece and Ireland and some of the other ones are getting in trouble, and just kind of getting a glimpse of what's going on out there. And so my question to Lee was, before we went to break, is, okay, all these countries are piling up their debt that they can't pay back, and it looks like U.S. is, doing the same thing. What does that really mean for us, consumers and us people, individually?
Well, right now it doesn't really mean much because we haven't seen too much of an effect. We haven't seen our government move to raise our taxes. We haven't really seen our government move to cut any kind of programs that significantly would cut the amount of money we have to pay out of our budget. So right now it doesn't really mean too much, except that we're going to keep accumulating a lot of debt, and as we accumulate debt, that could cause our dollar to become less valuable in the world market. On the other hand, we do see the Europe markets having a lot of trouble as well with debt, as their debt mounts as well. So what we could be seeing is a currency crisis in the future, where a lot of the fiat currencies, which is a currency that's not really backed by anything, could be losing their value as these governments try to print a lot of money in order to satisfy the needs that they have. And what that could really mean is to the individual person is a loss in buying power, or that they're not going to have the same standard of living. And I think that's what it really comes down to. And I think almost every single person that's listening and that's out there would say the American standard of living over the past 2 years has gone down. Mm-hmm. Even you were saying how important it was to get those, two free tickets to go out, during the week. Mm-hmm. Our standard of living has gone down. Another problem we have is we don't have much ability to get our bosses to pay us higher, because we have we have companies that are willing to do the manufacturing, the labor, even computer software programming at such low wages.
I had someone do a logo for me in Pakistan.
Okay, so there you go. And did you like the logo?
They did a decent job.
They did a decent job, and I'm sure you paid a lot less money than you would have paid here.
It was very inexpensive.
It was very inexpensive, and that's the kind of pricing pressure that the employee of the United States has. Is how do you walk into your boss and say, I want a raise, when they're going to say, listen, I can take your job and send it to Pakistan and pay a tenth of the value, not have to worry about your Social Security, your insurance, your workers' comp, and all of that, so get out of my office. And then if the dollar is losing value because we're printing so much of it, because we're running so much of a deficit, then you're losing your standard of living. And I think a lot of us are facing that, where we had a really decent standard of living, which was financed by some debt and people going out and, definitely leveraging themselves up. But overall, as the dollar doesn't hold its value, we're going to lose the American standard of living, and that's what we have to protect. Out of everything, we've got to get the U.S. dollar to be a strong dollar again. We have to get manufacturing back into this country, and it's not going to be easy, because it's really hard to face the fact that a good job, a good living wage in the United States should be around $15 to $20 an hour. If the average Idahoan was making $15 to $20 an hour, we would have an amazing economy here. And I believe if you look back in the statistics, 2005 and before, those were the kind of numbers most people made. But now we're starting to see grandmas competing with their parents, competing with their kids to get the same $8 an hour job at a big box retailer.
Right.
And $8 an hour isn't a living wage.
No, I put out a job for $10 an hour at my office, And just on Craigslist, I got like 100 resumes in like 2 hours.
Exactly. And each one of those people probably can't really afford to take that job, but
Right.
they'll take it because that's all they can get.
I end up hiring a college grad,
So you got a college grad for $8 an hour.
and they're happy with it for the time being because that's all they could get.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
you're taking advantage of that. And
Right.
a lot of other businesses can do the same. And they're even talking about tax credits for people hiring people like that.
Right.
But let's face a reality. If you went through college for 4 years and you paid that kind of bill, you were expecting a $25,000, $30,000 a year job
That's right.
upon graduation.
Well, yeah, and you got student loans to pay back and all the rest of it.
Exactly. And you didn't want to live with mom and dad anymore, and you know, maybe you wanted a car, and there's things you're not going to get with $8 an hour. And probably a lot of those 100 resumes you've gotten were also from people who are much older, who were let go from a very decent job, maybe even a job they'd been at for 8 to 10 years.
There's a lot of people out there who've been humbled by the economy.
Extremely humbled.
And so they may have been at one stage of their life before things are pretty comfortable, and now that's a totally different ballgame for them.
Right. And it's really a new reality. And a lot of people, I fear, live in the old bubble that 2005 and beyond, and prior to that is going to come back. And I don't think it's going to come back anytime soon. There's definitely a possibility of it coming back in the future. I do believe China is going to have a lot of problems, much like our own bubble problems. We don't have to get into that because it's a long story. But I do think China is going to have their problems as well. And they're not, the threat of them dumping the dollar on the market and wiping us out. I don't think that's a real threat at all. They need to have that dollar support to keep their economy going, and even their economies losing steam. But the real issue is, how does the average American keep their life together? And you have a whole different range. You have the person who just ran out of 99 weeks of unemployment. And you hear their stories. They'll tell you, well, I took a year off because I never believed I'd be out of work for that long. Something would have come along. And now 99 weeks later, they have nothing. And they're sitting with no income. They have no money saved. They've gone through their 401k or their IRA. They've taken out their investments. And they have nothing. And then you have the person who still has their job. And they may have some debt, and they may have leveraged up during the good times, but they're paying down their debt. The savings rate for the U.S. has increased to like 4.5 or 5%, which is the largest it's ever been in decades. And that's great. So they're saving. So you have that status. And then you have the upper income people, the real high earners. They're making a lot of money, and in my opinion, they're making a lot of money on the taxpayer, with these bank bailouts. And if you're big enough, you get a bailout. If you're too small, you don't. And one of the things that hurt me the most was
so true.
Was Michael's Furniture. I saw the interview on Michael's Furniture. It was on one of the local TV shows. They'd been around here for 40 years. At one time, they had 15 showrooms.
Yes.
And it was the owner, and you could just, I think he was the third generation owner. I don't know the whole story, but you could just see after 15 years of just desperate hard work, just trying to keep it going, they couldn't refinance their building. So they had to close down. And that's the kind of thing that just breaks your heart. Decades and decades of hard work just thrown away. And you ask yourself, what's this guy going to do now? Is he just going to go try to find a job at a furniture shop? What's this guy going to do? And he says he's going to rebuild and restart over. But even at 45, 50 years old, you shouldn't be at the point of rebuilding and starting over. And a lot of older people are facing that. Their 401s are wiped out. The 401ks are wiped out. The IRAs are wiped out. And now they're competing with the exact same jobs as a high school student. They want that Walmart job or the whatever job for $8 an hour because they need it.
Right.
And the students are being pushed out of the market. I think the unemployment rate for teenagers is over 25%.
Woo.
And so there's a lot of kids out there who need a job.
Right.
And mom and dad expect them to have a job and be able to have their own spending money.
Right.
And as you said, you just got a college graduate for $8 an hour. So there are issues with getting the living wage moved up. And I think that's where getting manufacturing back into this country, getting technology going again, really reaching back into our agricultural roots, into even going back to farming and going back to the basics. We have to look at that. Some of these students may want to go into farm management or they may want to go into agriculture management or mineral management or forest management, because that's where resources is going to be where the money is. You know, it's the same thing for gold. You know, what is gold? It's a storage of wealth. Why is it a storage of wealth? Because it takes a lot of effort to dig it out of the ground and make it into a little coin. Well, it's the same thing for our trees. It's the same thing for our minerals. You know, we've got them in abundance.